Okay, Dad, would you like to introduce yourself to the class?
Sure, my name is Masood Mortazavi.
Okay. Would you like to talk to us a little bit why you came to America from Iran?
The reason was to come to go to engineering school. Usually takes about 4 years, and sometimes if you decide to get your master, it takes about 6 years altogether.
So then you originally planned to go back to Iran after you finished college.
Correct.
But you had to stay. Now it's been 34 years. Why did you end up deciding to stay?
Well, a lot happened after I came here. I came here in Thanksgiving Day of 1978, and we had a revolution a few months later. A lot happened inside Iran, and then a year and a half later, in 1980, we had Iran-Iraq war, which had lasted about 8 years. And also in 1980, December of 1980, I met your mom, Robin, which been about 32 years now.
So when you first had this change, how did you how did you deal with this letting go stage? Was there a sense of loss? Did you miss your family?
At the beginning, you miss your family a lot, but slowly with the school and friends, you get used to it, and someday you just decide to say, well, it's too far, there's nothing I can do, it's 6,000 miles away, then you just have to deal with it.
Was dealing with the culture shock tough?
Oh, definitely. We knew some about the United States. We had Hollywood movies and TVs. We knew some, but it's different when you see it firsthand.
How about the weather difference?
Well, because I came to Indiana right at the beginning, the city I'm from is in west of Iran, which is also has a similar weather, except in the summertime it's dry, it's not humid. But in the winter time we had snow and it was the same.
What emotions would you say you went through a lot in this letting go stage?
Mostly you get homesick, and then you realize you're just too far away, and you might not see some of your friends ever, or some of your family. It's tough, but you just get used to it.
How did you feel, after you finished your first initial stage of coming to terms? How would you say you felt?
Well, the stage you're talking about, probably it's about letting go of people back there. You don't really let go. You still think about them. Obviously, you talk to them on the phone. But because you start having your own family, your own friends in here, that helps you to keep it together, and especially having family makes a big difference.
Since this was like a new phase of your life, were there opportunities to do things differently than you would have if you were still back in Iran?
Well, anytime in life, anytime you look back, there are things you want to do it differently, but that's just not the way that life works.
When would you say that you kind of came to terms with your new life in America and that you weren't going to go back to live in Iran?
It was a time when my own kids start growing up and going to school, and then you realize this is it, and this is permanent.
Did you want to move back to Iran at any point?
At the very beginning, but not later, after you guys start growing up, and just growing up in this culture makes a big difference, and for you guys it would have been much harder to go back. So I just came to acceptance, this is it.
Now, when you first came here, it was during the American hostage situation in Iran. Did that play into any difficulties you had adjusting and dealing with Americans?
Yeah, that happened in 1979. I was at the college that time, and it was difficult for a while, because a lot of times people stereotype, and it makes a big difference. But having friends around us, that made a huge help, and we deal with it, and it was over.
So saying friends you had, were they American friends, or did you have a bunch of Iranian friends that came with you, or that were already there?
Most of them was Iranian friends, but I did have some American friends. Actually, some of them did help.
So with your American friends, did you catch on with the language better? Did you come with some English already?
I did have 6 years of English language back home. We usually start having from 6th grade to 12. But it's not the same as conversation. You learn that by talking to people in here, and that's the way we did.
Now, looking back on this overall experience, would you say you would do anything differently?
Not really. Life goes on.
Okay, and just as entertainment value, which I've kind of been wondering is, when you think in your head, do you think in English or Farsi?
Well, actually a lot of people ask me that before. At the beginning, I always thought Farsi or Persian. But after 10-15 years, you start thinking in English.
Okay. Well, thank you for the interview. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.